So fast forward to 20 years ago, or now, I mean, I've tried all the different kinds of diets, raw, vegan, vegetarian, omnivore. I've tried the keto because 7, 8 years ago, I had gained some weight and I thought I was eating healthy. I wasn't eating anything much different. And I'm going like, what the heck's going on? So that was kind of in the 50s. I was 50 when I got the sarcoidosis diagnosis. And then, I was probably 63 when the weight started to go on. And then just a couple of years ago, I went to my doctor, just a regular checkup. And she says, I think we need to get your T4, your thyroid checked. And so I go, okay. Well, it was just super high. It was like 60 something. And it should have been between 0 and 5. So again, she said, I would like you to take these pills. And I'm going, I don't think so, because I knew that when you go on those pills for the thyroid, it's basically for life. And I'm going, I don't want to do that. I've been experimenting on enough energy work and healthy eating that I knew that there was another way. And there is. And what I didn't realize at the time was that all that raw food I ate for the year and the vegan, more plant-based food for a couple of years after that was that it was the fiber in the food that was actually healing my body. All those microbiome, the gut microbiota, all the little bacteria, viruses, etc., they were bringing my body back into balance. And so it was just, for me, that was just a really kind of an awareness that I didn't have before. And what it reminded me of was a movie called Hidden Figures. And it was on several years ago. And the hidden figures were women in a back lot of NASA using their brains to calculate how to get Neil Armstrong and his group into space. IBM came along. But it was interesting because Neil said, I want the head woman's calculations to confirm that I would get back to Earth. So those women in all their mathematical geniuses reminded me of our gut microbiota. We don't see them. They're hidden. And yet they do everything for us. And so today is that learning about that gut microbiota and how we can feed them well so that we can be the best health. We can rejuvenate our health. And I'll be sharing something a little later on how that works actually. And this is just a little quick review. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but we've got the gut wall. It's 1 cell thick, and we've got the gut microbiota inside the digestive system. And then you've got the vagus nerve, which connects through it's the parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, and then it connects with the brain. And now they're saying that the gut has its own brain, its own nervous system. And that just, it's just an incredible system. I feel so honored and grateful that I have this beautiful system. And so here we have just a little map of sort of our gut buddies. You know, we've got, there's the viruses, bacteria, aka parasites. And they say that there's almost more of them than there are cells in our body. That's how important they are. And this is beautiful synergistic relationship we have with all of that. And then the other important things in our life, you know, what we're eating and the exercise and our mindset and our positivity. Are we negative all the time? Or are we positive? And where can we find the joy in that life around us? And sometimes when that gut microbiome, that whole system, gets overworked or overloaded with toxins, we have the flood. And the flood, it basically represents the leaky gut. And what I've been learning is that the leaky gut actually turns into a leaky liver. And then it affects the gallbladder's affected and the kidney. And then, of course, it gets into the bloodstream. Well, that gets into every organ in our body. So we really need to try and avoid the flood of our body. These little gut buddies, I mean, they love us dearly. They take whatever we eat for decades. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes that long for those things to happen. So what is important is that we need the diversity of the gut microbiome. And so we've got these different bacteria, and our diet's important, and other things that affect our health is our exercise and antibiotics, which I've learned actually certain antibiotics actually make extinct small numbers. And the study, it only extincted 9 bacteria, but we don't know what that bacteria was good for. It might have been for something really, really important. And because we don't know enough, we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. And so really, really important to study that. And with the antibiotics, there's a whole nother thing about saving poop, but we're not going to go into that today, even though we are talking about fiber. And there is a little bit of poop talk with it, but that's okay. And environmental toxins affect our body, and the glyphosate in the Roundup Ready that they use for growing a lot of food, a lot of the corn and the canola, and it actually destroys some of the bacteria in our gut microbiome. And the stress also, the cortisol, it actually destroys gut microbes, and it releases hidden viruses and bacteria that are hiding in the colon. So it's really important that we try and be as less stressed as possible. So what is fiber? Well, the sort of technical term is complex carbohydrates, long chain sugar molecules that are not digestible or absorbed by your gut microbiota, otherwise known as your gut buddies. And it's a basic plant structure. Millions, if not billions, of types of fiber, and each one has a potential relationship with our gut microbiome. And when I read that, I'm going, oh my gosh, it just a whole new awareness of how important that relationship is with the fiber and our gut microbiome. And each one of those plants feeds our unique bacteria mix in our gut. And I was also reading that 97% of Americans are not reaching their basic fiber goals. And they've set it at, I think, 25 milligrams for women, or grams, and more for men. And some of the doctors, naturopaths, et cetera, that I've been reading about, and their research are going, we need way more than that. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors, they were probably having 100 grams of fiber. And I bet they didn't have to worry about constipation. So that's kind of the basics of fiber. And the gut microbes that deal with the fiber are only in the colon. And so it's not, there's some absorption of the minerals and the vitamins in the small intestine, but our main chat today is on what's happening in the colon. So fiber and your gut buddies. And so this I picked up from Wendy Garrett. And she says that microbes are beneficial and they help us live better. And that we are symbionts, where human cells coexisting with bacteria cells, fungi, viruses, and parasites. And we are multi-species beings. And just think about that for a moment. We are multi-species beings. You know, and they're just going, We just think that, we're this body, we have a mind, and we've got a spirit and a soul. And then we've got all these beings, and they're mainly in our gut. And when they're not in our gut, that's when we have issues. And I just really appreciated Wendy's thought on that. And most of the gut microbes are friendly. There's a few that when we're out of balance, those unfriendly ones, they're the ones that wreak some of the havoc, and they actually create more toxins because they're higher in numbers. And so how does that fiber do is good. So there's all sorts of things on the screen here. I'll read out a few of them for those who are just listening. And so basically you've got soluble fiber, and that's the one that absorbs the water. And it slows the absorption of sugar. That's one thing it does. And the insoluble fiber, it kind of goes through the gut faster until it gets to the colon. And in that process, kind of helps with our healthy weight, and it's more filling. It's been found to reduce cholesterol. The fiber promotes a healthy weight and blood sugar control, and reduces the risk of certain GI tract cancer risk in the colon. And it's actually essential for normal digestion. It's the food. It's actually the food that feeds the gut bacteria and the whole microbiome. And what happens is those healthy bacteria create these STFAs, which are the short chain fatty acids, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, and from a fermentation process. And it lowers the pH. And so that means there's less chance of harmful bacteria. And the healthy buddies, like one of these CTFAs, and it's butyrate. And it's also in ghee butter, which I talked about last time, and I'll briefly mention this time. And it also reduces the inflammation in the colon. And when we have that inflammation restricted, it's calm, then we don't have so much of the issues. When it's inflamed, the gut's inflamed, then that's when things, havoc happens, and you get chaos, and then we get the toxins and some of the bacteria, whatever, into the circulatory system. And it wreaks havoc in different people in different ways, and it can be from the same source. So we need those, the prebiotic fiber, which is in the food. So we've got soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. And the resistant starches are part of the fiber family. They're just slightly different. And they've kind of grouped some of the food in the different groups. So you soluble fiber, it dissolves in water, lowers the glucose level, and it helps slow digestion. And it binds with the water to create a slow moving sludge, which is what you want. And it also allows the vitamins and minerals to be absorbed. And the foods for the soluble fiber are oats, beans, citrus fruits, apples, barley, carrots, and psyllium. And so when you think of your oatmeal that you have for breakfast, that's got the water and the fiber, and that is just, going through your system, and it's got fiber that your body needs. Your body actually needs both of them. And the insoluble fiber doesn't dissolve. It stays intact in the gut, and it goes all the way down into the colon. And it creates a soft, bulky stool, which makes it easy to pass. And the foods with the insoluble fiber are your whole grains, your bran, and most of your vegetables. And the resistant starches, they feed the healthy bacteria like the fiber does. And there's lots of it in the legumes, seeds, and many grains. And some actually form in the heating. So when you say cook your rice or your pasta and you put it in the fridge, it actually assists in sort of kind of creating more of a resistant starch that just assists the feed. It feeds the gut microbiota. And for some people, and maybe for many people, it causes less gas and less issues. Other resistant starches are plantain, Bananas that are more green than yellow because they've got less sugar content in them. Beans, peas, lentils. And just a reminder, when you're using lentils of any kind, rinse them because there's saponins that cause irritation in the gut lining. And just a bit of history, a Russian zoologist, Eli Mechnikov, and he was a zoologist, and he was curious, and he was working on the immune system, and he theorized that toxic bacteria in the gut caused aging and senility, and he started working with yogurts and that kind of thing to sort of assist with that, with his thinking process. And he was the one that kind of got a lot of people started in the whole research on the gut and the gut microbiome. And just a little note, quick note about poop. Something that's important to remember is you know how kids use a stool because they need to get up to the toilet seat? We need to do that as adults. So tippy-toeing on your feet, it's not a good position. Whereas when you use a stool, I have one in each bathroom, so that your body is a better position. And actually, a lot of Asians, they actually squat on the toilet. So you're in that position where it's easier for the colon to release the poop. And it came from actually in the 1400s. And it was this seat enclosure. And it was, had to do with the king, and he had this private room for going to the bathroom. And it was a potty chair. And that's where the stool came from. Made the connection with the stool and the poop. And so other little tidbits on the probiotic and the biotics that is often talked about. And prebiotics, basically, it's the fiber in the food. That's what it is. And it promotes the growth and activity of the beneficial bacteria. And it feeds the healthy microorganisms in your gut. And these are the foundation of your gut and your total body health. And so we've got food, we've got our little cute little gut buddy here, who's our sort of our superhero. And there's another woman I know, and she calls all the gut buddies superheroes, which they are. And then the probiotics are found naturally in fermented foods, the kimchi and the yogurt, sauerkraut, that kind of thing, kefir. And it's gut-friendly bacteria, and it helps support the body's immune system, but they don't permanently alter it. They're just there temporarily. And some of the recent thinking is not to go to or to rely on probiotics, because part of it takes away the job of the prebiotic, the whole gut microbiome. So you're feeding it stuff, and I'm not saying it's wrong. And if you feel great with it, fantastic, but not as something to rely on to basically heal yourself or to improve your gut health, because it's the prebiotic, it's the food that will actually do that. And last night I went through and I'm going, oh, we need to measure all the grams in our food. And I'm going, oh, after reading something last night, this morning, I'm going, we can do that. We can stop that. And I looked at I was looking at apples with the skin and the soluble and the insoluble fiber, because we need them both. And, raspberries have an amazing, just a little half a cup of raspberries. It's got 2.3 grams of insoluble fiber. But if we need a minimum of, well, the minimum for women is 25. And Will Bolsewitz, he's actually saying we need way more than that. He's recommending like up to 50 if we want to have a healthy body and a healthy gut. We need to feed it way more fiber. So there's kale cooked. It's got 5.1 insoluble fiber, and potato with the skin is 2.4, but together it's almost 5 grams of fiber. So when you combine them, then you get a sort of a better overall picture of what it is. And chia seeds are amazing. 85 to 98, it's not 983, it's 98% fiber, insoluble. And same thing with flaxseed and the chia. It's important to grind them so you get the full capacity of what the chia can do. So 5 to 6 teaspoons would give you 10 grams of fiber every day. Or even if you did half that, sprinkle it on your salad, put it in your smoothie, use it in different ways, spread it on, sprinkle it on maybe some your cooked vegetables. And so you're getting this extra fiber. And black beans and a lot of the lentils are 6 grams of fiber. The black beans are, I think, 4 grams of fiber. So, and the broccoli, half a cup is 2.7 grams of fiber. So you have to eat a lot of food in order to get all this amount of fiber in. Oatmeal, 1 cup is basically 4 grams total. Quinoa, also it's about kind of the same. Pumpernickel bread, 2.7. And whole grain bread, 1 slice is basically almost 3 grams. And pasta, whole grain pasta, has got over 6 grams of fiber. And so really important things to play with. And look at your labels, because that will guide you. You can get lentil pasta now, you can get a bean pasta, you can get chickpea pasta. So look at the fiber, and actually those kinds of pastas actually have more protein in them. So have a look at your labels. You need to be a really smart consumer. So your fiber-rich, healthy lifestyle. And do you want longevity, or you want to feel radiant, strong, healthy, and pain-free? So the challenge is on. Can you eat 30 different kinds of plant food? And I'm just going to pause there because I think I want to go back to a slide, and then I'll just go forward. Yeah, I'm going to go back a little bit because we missed a couple of slides. So there we go. So the pathway of your food. And I like to see pictures because you can give me all this information. I'm going like, what does that do? I've got this body, I've got a gut, I've got different organs in my body, I've got all these systems, nervous systems and circulatory systems. I'm going, how does it all fit in? So you've got your whole organic food, insoluble fiber, and you chew the food really well. Your digestion starts when you taste your food, when you smell it, when you're preparing it, because your body is getting ready to digest it. And it's this beautiful system. And then you've got these insoluble fiber, which is plant fiber, carbohydrate, sugar molecule kind of thing. And then it gets passed down into the colon, which is where all the action is. And then I just love this picture. So this is your gut buddy community waiting to receive all that fiber, because when they are healthy and happy, actually you are too. It actually affects your mood when your gut buddy, when your whole body is working in this beautiful harmony. And we all want to feel good. We want to be healthy. We want to live longer and have that really good quality of life. And those are your gut buddies, and they are waiting for you. And so it takes the insoluble food fibers, and then your gut microbiota, they get to work, and they break down those insoluble fibers. And it's just amazing. I don't even know how they do that, but they just do. And so here's your community working with the food, all that fiber that you've eaten, and it creates metabolites, and there's a fermentation process. And in that process, you get short chain fatty acids that are forming. And these are essential. And I didn't really have much of an awareness other than the butyrate that I knew is in the ghee. But they all have healing properties, which I wasn't aware of. And I'll talk about a study in another slide. So the butyrate, it's 90% food energy source for your colon cells. And it also neutralizes inflammation, which helps reduce the leaky gut. Because if your gut's inflamed, that's when things start leaking out of it. Because it's a major barrier to whatever is coming into your body, or when it comes down, the toxins that are coming, the environmental toxins that are coming in, and the stress. And oh my gosh, stress. Oh, well, let's bring out those hidden viruses and bacteria that are just sleeping quietly in the colon lining. And when you get super stressed over a long time, that's when those toxins start coming up. And so the gut microbiome's got to deal with those toxins, environmental toxins, toxins from poorly digested food. According to Ayurveda nutrition, 90% of our toxins are from poorly digested food. So yeah, we need to be really mindful. The acetate regulates the pH of the gut, and it controls the appetite, and it protects us against pathogens. And the propionate regulates our appetite, combats inflammation, and helps protect against cancer. And the lactate regulates the immune system and nourishes the microbiome so that we get this beautiful bacteria growing. So that is the pathway of your food. It's quite amazing. And we've gone through that one. And so this, I was thinking of a challenge that we could do. You know, we want longevity. We want to feel radiant, strong, healthy, and pain-free, because the pain is caused from inflammation. And even the sarcoidosis that I had, that was due to some imbalance in my body. I was not eating enough fiber. And this kind of comes from this Dr. Will Bursavitz. And he's this study that they did, it was called the American Gut Study, and it was 150 countries. And what they found was that if you eat 30 different plant foods each week, that you would have a healthy gut, basically. And so Will does not count grams of fiber. He and many others, get your sleep. Go to bed before 9:30 or 10 o'clock. Drink only water after your early dinner. So try and eat an earlier dinner, not these late night dinners. Because, I mean, for one thing, when you go to bed, your digestion slows down. So you've got all this food kind of fermenting in the stomach and the small intestine. And we don't want that kind of fermentation happening. That's the wrong kind of fermentation. We want it going down in the colon where we've got the microbiome that knows what to do with that. And, you know, people do this intermittent fasting. Well, it can be very simple as having a dinner at 5 or 6, not eating till 7 o'clock the next morning, and having water. If you feel like you want to have something, glass of water. And Will also recommends going for a 15 to up to a 30-minute walk after dinner, and eat organic food, one, to support the farmer and not to support the food industry, because the food industry really, for the most part, does not have your health as its main concern. They may talk like it, and they say, oh, this is natural, you know, this is good for your gut, you know, buy these, well, and not to say probiotics are bad, but, you know, buy all this stuff so that you can feel better. Buy the bromelain that's in pineapple because it helps with digestion. Well, you're better off having the pineapple that's got the fiber and all the other goodness that's in the pineapple. I I mean, the pineapple and any fruit or vegetable was created that way for a reason. And there's more than just us taking out the vitamins and the minerals. This other naturopathic doctor, Joseph Pizzarno, was saying that, you know, they identified 50 main vitamins and minerals that the body needed to be alive. Well, there's 50,000 elements in food, and we're only looking at 50. And so we need to get back to this whole diversity thing. And so when we support the organic farmer, he's not putting pesticides into the food. Those pesticides are not toxic because they form toxins in our body, and our body has to deal with. And we know the glyphosate actually kills some of the bacteria. And then one suggestion to increase the fiber without actually counting the grams, take your spaghetti. So you've got a whole grain spaghetti, your tomato sauce, and you can have garlic, onion, chopped greens, and some people grate carrots into it. You could put about 5 different vegetables into your spaghetti, and that counts as that number of fiber foods. So you could actually have up to maybe 10 fiber foods in one meal. Then you add a salad, and that might have some cucumber or maybe some olives. Well, that's another 3. Salad actually doesn't have much fiber. It's almost nothing. FYI, meat doesn't have any. Fish has no fiber. Animal protein does not have fiber. It might take a long time to chew, but doesn't have the fiber your body needs. So the benefits of fiber, when you keep your gut microbiota healthy, you're reducing inflammation in the gut and in the rest of your body. And 60% of that immune system is in your gut. And so when it's out of alignment, then that affects your whole body. And by eating whole, fresh, preferably organic food, you're feeding your gut buddies food it needs to thrive. And that allows you to thrive as well. And when your gut microbiota are in harmony, your total body is healthy, energized, and you are fiber fueled, which is the name of Will's book. And I'll show you after when I finish. And when you're less stressed, you sleep more, you exercise, you're reducing the stress toxins, and you're maintaining a healthy gut. And I think further down a little bit on Dr. Pizzarno on plants. Well, I'll mention it here, because what his research has found is that plants, when they're grown organically, communicate with the soil, and plants are exposed to bacteria as well, and viruses and different things. And they've developed a mechanism, an antitoxin, to protect themselves. And so when we eat that food, we get that protection. I mean, isn't that a beautiful system? I'm just saying, oh my gosh, I mean, that's just so beautiful. And just so grateful for actually even just learning that knowledge. So you can support the farmer and know, and it's organic. And even if you know the farmer, and because being organic, qualified as organic, is very expensive. But if you know, you go to the local farmer's market, and you know the farmer, and you know that you can trust them that they don't add chemicals, then you can eat that as well, because it won't have the toxins in the food that you might get when you go to the grocery store and they bring food from all over the world, which is fine because we get to play with different foods. But just remember that whatever's on the shelf, we don't know where it's come from. And so try and choose organic as much as possible. And also the fiber, it normalizes your bowel movements, and that healthy bowel. And some research is actually showing it lowers the cholesterol by lowering the bad or the low density lipoprotein. And it helps control blood sugar by slowing the absorption of the sugar. And with the insoluble fiber, the sugars are processed in the colon. And so the sugars aren't absorbed nearly as much into your body. So that those insoluble fiber, even greenish bananas, are actually low on the glycemic index. And these short-chain fatty acids can actually, according to Will's research and this gut study this world study that they did, they found that it actually made a huge difference. And it can actually reverse the leaky gut and improve insulin resistance. It can affect the entire immune system, these short chain fatty acids. They cross the blood-brain barrier. They can change our focus, change our memory, what we can remember, and it gets into the entire blood system. And the SCVAs, which is from the fiber, and the whole process can block Alzheimer's disease by preventing the formation of the beta amyloid plaques, which they know there's plaques forming in the Alzheimer's patients. And so these really, really important to be having that insoluble fiber. And so where the information goes, such a unique to each person, but the source, which is our gut, is the same. And this was tips to fit in more fiber. And so, try kind of stay away from the white and whole grain cereals, lentils and beans, lots and lots of water. And that helps just flush everything out. And just eat more fresh food, because if you're eating lots of plants, that's fresh. And that's exactly what your body is looking for. And you can add oats and wheat bran to your muffins, any of your baking. So you're getting extra fiber without having to have a serving of it. And as I mentioned, the chia seeds, sprinkle them, put them in your baking. And for those of you who've been asked, I'm looking at my diet now and going, wow, I don't have 30 plants a week. And the thing is, they have to be different. That's what Will and this whole American gut study decided. It wasn't, you can't have potatoes 3 times a week and thinking that that's 3 servings. That's one serving. So you have to count each food needs to be different. So it's 30 different kinds of plant food, which is all our grains and our fruits and our vegetables. And so start with low amounts, because if you're not used to all this fiber-rich food, you can get some gas and bloating and that kind of thing, and just you don't feel very comfortable. But don't give up, because what's happening is you haven't got the right amount of bacteria in your digestive system to deal with it at first. So it takes time. So have patience with yourself and patience with your gut buddies, because it takes time to build up that right mixture of the gut, the microbiota. And you can also try muscle testing, which is what I do by time. I'm going, is this what my body needs right now? You just do a little bit of muscle testing, kinesiology, to figure out if that's what your body needs. And of course, I just wanted to pop this in because it's the healing spices, the teas, and spices are very healing, and they are healing for the gut. They help reduce inflammation, they soothe, different things like that. So cumin, coriander, and fennel is a beautiful tea, and you just combine a teaspoon of each spice and you steep it and just sip on it, and it's a beautiful spice. And then this is a resource where I got a lot of my information from, and I will send that to you when I send you the video replay. And bits from Joseph Pizzorno. We've got this good and bad bacteria. They're all important because it's part of our ecosystem. We've got this incredible ecosystem within us, and they know what to do, and we've forgotten, and we need to add those proper foods. And so when you get too much of the wrong bacteria, you get these endotoxins, which are more toxins that your body and your gut microbiome has to deal with. And so just, another little, and Dr. Joseph Pizzorno wrote a book called the Toxin Solutions. He just wrote it this past year. So it's a good little book if you want to learn more about how he went into research on things. And also check out the Dirty Dozen, which is the healthy 15 foods regarding organic or not, according to Dr. Will Bolsowitz. And he has this thin skin is in, and if it's thick, peel it away and toss it. So, so anyway, that's a little bit of that. And then of course the ghee is very high in butyric acid. And butyric acid is one of the acids that we have the least of. And it's important that we get more. So if you add the ghee, butter, to your diet, I recommend making it. It's less expensive than buying the jars of it. And use organic if you can. I use grass-fed. So I know that the animals are not eating any grain because I don't want, or because the people I get it from, I'm trusting that if your cows are out eating the grass and then you milk them, that they're certainly much less toxic than anything else. So if you can get grass-fed organic, fantastic. And if you want to know how to make it, let me know. But it's quite easy. It takes about an hour and a bit to make your own. And breathe. And before you eat your meal, just that moment of gratitude, and just thank all this food and your gut microbiome working together for you to be your healthiest and best. So it's just a simple way to calm the body before you eat. It's one way to start the day and your meal. And so you can visit my app, which is Authentic Sacred Design, and check out the many free resources under topics. And I've got some articles and videos under health and wellness and the gut microbiome. And I welcome you to listen to my Quaking Aspen meditation, some music, video kind of activation. And there's a 10 top tips your gut buddies will love you for. It's in the special offer section. And so with that, I thank you so much for being with me today.